On July 2, 1937, Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan disappeared somewhere over the Pacific Ocean during their attempted around-the-world flight. The U.S. government's official conclusion was that the flyers were unable to locate their destination of Howland Island, ran out of fuel, crashed into the water, and sank to the bottom of the deep ocean, 17,000 feet below the surface. But the government's conclusion did not satisfy some researchers and enthusiasts. Since there was no physical evidence to support it, alternate theories began to emerge. Some of the oldest and most prevalent theories claim that Earhart and Noonan were acting as spies for the U.S. government. This flight occurred just 2 years before the outbreak of World War II, and 4 years before the devastating surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. In 1937, American relations with Germany and Japan were already strained. President Roosevelt was concerned about a Japanese military buildup on Pacific Islands. Following World War I, the Japanese occupied the Marianas, Caroline, and Marshall Island groups. They did not permit outsiders to sail in these waters. Some researchers believe Earhart agreed to deviate from her proposed course in the Pacific to spy on Japanese-held islands. They point to the fact that she was a personal friend of both President Roosevelt and his wife.
It is entirely possible that Roosevelt, who had a habit of dabbling in clandestine affairs, asked Amelia if she would just have a little navigation error and overfly, in which case nothing would have ever been recorded. No one would have known anything about it.
Earhart and her husband also worked closely with several government agencies while planning the flight. Spy theory enthusiasts believe the only reason she needed to speak with so many government people was to prepare for a secret mission. Retired Air Force Colonel Roland Reineck believes Earhart was planning to become intentionally lost. He feels that Earhart was supposed to find Howland and leave the next day for Honolulu. The Navy would report a storm in between the two islands and suggest that she fly around it to the north.
What they really wanted her to do was to get close enough to the Marshall Islands and announce over her radio that she was having trouble. Surreptitiously, she would be picked up by the Navy. This would give the Navy an opportunity to search the Marshall Islands.
Reineck thinks the Navy scrubbed the plan when Earhart became lost the day before her flight to Honolulu. A government cover-up then ensued. The central figure in this deception is supposedly Henry Morgenthau, a friend that FDR had appointed as Secretary of the Treasury. Morgenthau traveled all the way from Washington, D.C. to Hawaii at the end of July 1937 to talk to the captain of the Itasca. What the two men discussed remains a mystery to this day. Reineck believes Earhart did actually land near the Marshall Islands and that she and Noonan were captured by the Japanese. According to eyewitnesses who lived in the region, the Americans were transported to Saipan. Then the trail becomes cold until World War II ended. One major drawback of the spy theory is that much of her last flight over Japanese-held islands in the Pacific was at night. Infrared cameras did not exist at the time, and flares or flash bombs would have been ineffective over such a large area. Amelia Earhart's spirit lives on, and the hunt for the world's most famous female pilot will certainly continue as we go in search of history.